You've read the promising reviews, you've seen the startling price. Now you want to know if the BYD Shark 6 is the real deal. There are just so many unknowns about Australia's first plug-in hybrid ute. How's the reliability and durability? Does the tech really work? How does it drive? Well, the best place to answer those great questions is in the Aussie outback. We're leaving from here, a rainy Broken Hill, and headed for Cameron Corner, and then for the 4x4 playground that is the Flinders Ranges and Arkaroola. From there, it's some beach playtime, and we finish up in Adelaide. So come along for the ride. It's going to be a fascinating experience. There are actually 3 BYD Shark 6s on this trip. They're all pre-production cars, and they also have different tunes and calibrations of their suspensions and software systems. A couple of them are also running all-terrain rubber and accessories from BYD's partner Ironman 4x4. But our hero Shark 6 is bog stock and rolling on continental highway terrain rubber. It doesn't take long after Broken Hill has departed to appreciate just how different the Shark 6 is to diesel utes like the top-selling Ford Ranger and Toyota Hilux. It's powered by 2 electric motors, 1 on each axle, and a petrol engine, with the whole lot supported by a substantial high-voltage battery pack. It primarily runs on electricity. The petrol engine mostly acts as a generator and only directly drives the front wheels at speeds above 70 kilometres an hour. The petrol engine is crucial because it extinguishes the range anxiety of a pure EV. It can be filled up just like a normal car, as well as plugged in, and has a claimed 800 kilometre range. But we'll get to fuel economy and all that stuff later. Our first day's running to Tibooburra on the Silver City Highway is all bitumen and all relaxed cruising. It's darned hot outside, but the aircon does a good job keeping us cool. Compared to an orthodox diesel ute, it's stunning how quiet the Shark 6 is, how comfortable the ride is, and how powerful it is when overtaking. Good morning, second day. Guess where we are? Yeah, I don't have to tell you, do I? But I will anyway. Tibooburra, far northwestern New South Wales. Now, yesterday was cruisy, all bitumen, did a great job, quiet, smooth, great ride, all the normal things we've already been impressed by with this vehicle. Today's a very different challenge. Over 500 kilometres of gravel, ruts, dust, rocks, you name it. We're on our way through Cameron Corner around to the Flinders Ranges. It's going to be a real challenge for the vehicle. It's going to be fascinating to see how it stands up to it. Transition to the dirt in a diesel ute and you'll be operating dials and pushing levers to get the right gears meshing and wheels driving. But there is no gearbox in the Shark 6, let alone low range, no locking diffs, and the rear suspension is independent with coils rather than live axle and leaf springs, which is the orthodox setup in the ute segment. Day 2 of our Outback Shark 6 drive, and we are on the gravel well and truly somewhere west of Cameron Corner. So we're in South Australia now. We've been on the gravel now for approaching 160 kilometres, and so far the Shark 6 is holding up pretty well. There are several different examples of the car we're driving here over these few days, and one we've spent a bit of time in is fitted with all-terrain tyres. And it's interesting because it's noticeably more composed over the rough stuff than the standard car with the highway terrain Continentals. It tends to control itself that bit better, whether it's got a stiffer sidewall or what, I'm not sure. There's also some aftermarket accessory gear on the car, such as a bull bar and roof rack and so on, and whether that weight is helping settle the car as well, not sure. But it was just noticeable driving the standard car that it does have an under-dam feel to it. Tends to have a lot of body movement both vertically and laterally when you hit the big depressions and washouts and joins and things like that. So maybe there's some work there to be done. Drivetrain wise though, wow, I mean the positive impressions you get from driving this vehicle on the bitumen is just the same on gravel. It's responsive, it's smooth, it's quiet, There's no shortage of power. It's really impressive from that perspective. It continues to prove my original impression when I first drove the Shark 6 several weeks ago, that whatever the quality of the vehicle around it, the plug-in hybrid powertrain has tremendous potential in use. It's very interesting that the car is so quiet. We keep getting evidence that wildlife isn't hearing us coming. We've had emus dash quite late across the front of the car. We had some bush pigs earlier run across the road in front of us. We had some kangaroos just simply sit there and watch us idle up and pull up basically next to them. And only when, say, the vehicle hits some ruts and shakes and makes some noise do they seem to figure out it's a car and run away, or hop away in the case of a kangaroo. So that's an interesting side effect of driving electric. And it is quite eerie when we're just standing there and other cars in the convoy pull away and there's virtually no noise. This dual cab ute whispers off over a sand dune ahead of us and is gone with virtually no noise. Quite an impact. Speaking of impact, the Conti highway terrain tyres are copping a hammering. By the time we make it to Arkaroola, there have been 3 punctures today and we're down to the last scraps of spare rubber. Yep, quite the impact. Day 3, we're here at Arkaroola, and as you can tell by the intensity of the light, it's not exactly an early morning start. The hectic day we experienced yesterday with 3 flat tyres meant we've had to swap the Shark 6 to all-terrains, and that's slowed us down a bit. But we're on our way now to Wilpena Pound in the heart of the Flinders Ranges, and some more really interesting and varied and scenic off-road driving. So, more experiences to come. This is a smoother, more flowing run today, and the instantaneous response with electric motors to requests for drive is reassuring. The Shark 6 also responds to steering wheel inputs confidently, rides the ruts comfortably, and does it all silently. Even when the petrol engine kicks in, it does it in the background. So afternoon at day 3, and we're bumping along on a really typical Flinders Ranges track. A bit lower speed than what we've been doing for much of the day, which the car has really acquitted itself quite well at. It's been pretty comfortable, but it is obvious there are different suspension chins amongst these 3 cars that are in this convoy. And this car, the standard blue car, is or has the oldest chassis setup of the 3. It's in pre-production terms, it's the oldest car, and that means it's the one that feels the most underdamped. The impact, the vertical movement is reduced thanks to the all-terrain tyres it's now running, and it's pretty comfortable, I gotta say. At these lower speeds, there's a bit of shock and bump coming through, but it's not outrageous. And again, I think that the coil rear suspension is playing a role in that, in helping make it that bit more comfortable than what a standard rigid axle, line axle, dual cab ute would be. Again, the smoothness and the response to the electric motor is standing out here. So yeah, it's a pretty solid thumbs up so far with this experience. Our day ends at the famous Stokes Hill Lookout, and it's a great view. But tomorrow, the Shark 6 faces its toughest challenge of the trip. Day 4 of our BYD Shark 6 Outback adventure, and we're in the Flinders Ranges. In fact, we're at Skytrek, which is a very famous off-road circuit of about 80 kilometres. We're going to put the BYD Shark 6 through its paces on the circuit, a whole bunch of different challenges, and see how it performs. So if the Shark 6 is going to be shown up anywhere, it's on the gnarlier climbing sections of Skytrek. It's loose, rocky and steep, and it's going to test out both traction and articulation. So there's some things to consider here about the Shark 6's 4x4 system. With instant torque from its electric motors, the Shark 6 eschews low range, and rather than diff locks, it employs the razor-sharp responses of the electric motors to shut off and redirect drive when needed. It also has 4 modes to help refine motor behaviour for specific conditions, and camera views to help pick the way through.
Then there's that independent rear suspension. Can it keep wheels on the ground to keep things moving in the right direction? And the Shark 6 weighs in at 2.7 tonnes, so there's a lot to keep moving here.
Alright, we're just bumping down to the exit gate here on Skytrek, and it's been a great day. It's a really interesting and challenging trail in different places, quite open in places. A lot of climbing, loose climbing, rocky climbing, and it's really challenged the BYD Shark 6, and it's done really well. First off, nothing's fallen off, which has been great. The car has hung together in some pretty challenging conditions. Secondly, really impressed by the traction control system, especially the most recent tune in the white car. That car, the response is almost instant. When there's some wheel spin, quickly clamps the wheel and goes again. Yeah, it really works very well. And finally, the other aspect that I really like is the quietness that electric off-roading delivers. You're really more in nature rather than dominating it like you feel you do in a diesel ute. Yeah, I wouldn't say this is a better off-roader by any stretch than say a Hilux, but what this proves is it is competitive.
Day 4 ends with a barbecue powered by the Shark 6's battery pack. It's a feature called vehicle to load, and it basically means you can head outback without a portable generator or need firewood. As we consider our drive back to the coast, it's a nice way to wrap up the day.
Day 5 of our epic BYD Shark 6 adventure, and after the challenges off-road yesterday, we're hitting the bitumen today. Now, not as exciting in terms of driving as yesterday, but equally, if not more so important, because to get to places like the beautiful Flinders Ranges, you have to cover a lot of time and distance on bitumen. So we need to make sure the Shark 6 performs equally well in those conditions as off-road, if not better. Okay, let's get into it.
On windier bitumen out of the Flinders and the Silver City Highway where we started it all off, the Shark 6 continues to feel composed and comfortable. So it's all looking pretty good, but at this point we need to consider some numbers. The Shark 6's maximum payload is only 790 kilograms and it tows only 2,500 kilograms braked, which is a tonne below the best of its rivals like the Ford Ranger and Toyota Hilux. And then there's fuel economy. BYD makes some really gobsmacking claims for how miserly the Shark 6 can be and how far it can go on a tank of fuel. But on our challenging desert epic, the best result we saw was pretty high at more than 14 litres per 100 kilometres over a total duration of 1,800 kilometres. There are some provisos on this result because we kept the state of charge of the battery at 70%, which meant the engine was running often to keep it topped off. The engine also had to stay running to access the V2L function when we stopped, although BYD intends to make a software change to fix that. Off-roading and some enthusiastic driving added to the mileage, as did the added weight of luggage and accessories. But in more usual circumstances, such as around town everyday running, 10 litres per 100 kilometres would seem more like what you could achieve, and maybe a total range of around 550 kilometres. Now also, don't forget, you get up to 80 kilometres of EV only running, which is zero emissions, zero fuel consumption. But for us, undoubtedly during our trip, fuel economy was the least impressive part of what was an otherwise darned impressive outback debut for the BYD Shark 6.
Yep, we've made it from Broken Hill to the outskirts of Adelaide. 5 days and 1,700 kilometres of intense, varied and revealing driving. Every time I venture into the Australian outback, I am stunned again by its brutality and its beauty, and just how hard it is on the vehicles that venture into it. And the BYD Shark 6 has met the challenge. Sure, we've had some tyre issues, but the fundamental mechanical, technical and design package has passed the test. It's performed comfortably, quietly and capably, but most importantly, robustly. Look, I've got to be honest, before we ventured out on this trip, I had some serious concerns we were going to end up on the side of the road with a mechanical failure or a software issue, especially as these are pre-production vehicles. Instead, the Shark 6 proved it is a genuine alternative to orthodox diesel dual cab utes. Look, it's a different experience for sure, but in some ways it's a better one, especially in terms of refinement. To be honest, I am genuinely shocked that BYD has done such a good job of its first ute. It's a genuine dual cab contender.